Today, we'll be exploring the theme of masculinity in Macbeth. This theme is deeply linked with some of the characters' actions and motivations throughout the play. By examining how Shakespeare portrays masculinity, we can gain a deeper understanding of the characters and the societal expectations of the time. Let's start by defining masculinity. Masculinity refers to qualities traditionally associated with men, such as strength, bravery, and assertiveness. In the Jacobean era, masculinity was closely linked to notions of honour, loyalty, and the willingness to fight. During the Jacobean era, masculinity was often defined by a man's ability to protect and provide for his family, his courage in battle, and his loyalty to his king and country. A man's honour and reputation were paramount, and any challenge to his masculinity was taken very seriously. Shakespeare's inclusion of this theme in Macbeth serves several purposes. Firstly, it reflects the societal norms and values of his time, allowing the audience to connect with the characters and their struggles. Secondly, it provides a lens through which we can examine the characters' motivations and actions. Lastly, it may even offer a commentary on the destructive nature of toxic masculinity and the consequences of adhering to rigid gender roles. Let's begin by looking at how Lady Macbeth challenges masculinity. In Act 1, Scene 7, she questions Macbeth's manhood to manipulate him into committing regicide. We might even say she emasculates him, and this is what proves so effective. If you emasculate someone, you take away their masculine strength or weaken them. This is exactly what she sets out to do, with the intention of ensuring he wants to therefore prove her wrong. A great quotation for this is, "When you durst do it, then you were a man, and to be more than what you were, you would be so much more the man," which is in Act 1, Scene 7. Macbeth actually tries to back out of their plans, essentially arguing that Duncan has rewarded him with the title of Thane of Cawdor, and he is a good king who doesn't deserve this. Macbeth claims that he is happy with his masculinity, and going beyond this makes him less of a man when he says, "I dare do all that may become a man, who dares do more is none." And what you can see on the screen then is her response to Macbeth's comment here. Here, when Lady Macbeth says, "When you durst do it, then you were a man, and to be more than what you were, you would be so much more the man," she equates masculinity with the willingness to commit murder, suggesting that true manhood involves ruthless ambition and action. This manipulation plays on Macbeth's insecurities and propels him towards his tragic downfall. Clearly, she knows him well enough to affect him in this way and knows that it will work. Now, we'll look at the word durst, and durst just means dared here. Notice she doesn't simply say "when you do it." The dare implies that Lady Macbeth is almost challenging him. A dare takes a certain level of fearlessness or lack of care for consequences. She encourages these qualities and clearly associates this with what makes a true man. Furthermore, the repetition of more indicates that to be a man, Macbeth should strive for further success and greatness, again associating masculinity with ambition and position, no matter how it is achieved. Now, if you watch the ambition video, we talked about how ambition at the time in some ways was seen as dangerous and even sinful, as it could result in disrupting the divine order. But of course, Lady Macbeth is clearly disregarding that here. Furthermore, the word more suggests she does not consider him to be masculine at present. It is used to make him feel inferior and allow him to compare himself to what he could be, again acting as a clever challenge from Lady Macbeth. Ironically, by equating masculinity with the willingness to commit murder, Shakespeare uses Lady Macbeth to highlight the moral corruption that ambition can bring. Her words show how ambition can distort one's values and sense of self. Ultimately, Lady Macbeth's challenge reflects the rigid view of masculinity of the time, where men were expected to be aggressive and assertive, but she cleverly twists this to make it more about committing immoral acts to prove his manhood, rather than for honour. Now let's consider Macbeth's view of masculinity too. Initially, his view is tied to his loyalty to King Duncan and his bravery in battle. He is described as a valiant cousin and worthy gentleman, highlighting his honour and strength. In Act 1, Scene 7, Macbeth says, "I dare do all that may become a man, who dares do more is none." This quote reveals his initial belief that true masculinity involves honourable actions. However, as the play progresses and following Lady Macbeth's successful manipulation, Macbeth's understanding of masculinity becomes increasingly warped. His ambition drives him to commit heinous acts, and he begins to equate masculinity with violence and tyranny. During the banquet scene where Macbeth invites suspicion as he shouts at Banquo's ghosts, Macbeth is challenged by Lady Macbeth again as she desperately tries to make him see sense before he gives himself away in front of their guests. Previously, his view of masculinity was tied to honour and loyalty. Here, though, in the second quotation that you can see, when he responds with and a bold one that dare look on that which might appall the devil, to her challenges of whether he's a man or not, it indicates his now warped view of what it means to be masculine. He now associates being a man with power, dominance, and the ability to instill fear in others. There's a clear hubristic tone in this statement too. He sounds proud that his masculinity would appall the devil. The verb appall is powerful here. To appall someone is to disgust them. So he takes pride in the fact that now his malevolence would even horrify the devil. This hubris underscores his now misguided understanding of masculinity. Macbeth's transformation reflects the corrupting influence of unchecked ambition and the toxic nature of rigid gender roles. His desire to prove his manhood leads him down a path of moral decay and ultimately to his downfall. Now, I only really want to talk about Malcolm with the intention of exploring Macduff's response to him, but this quotation from him is useful for exploring rigid gender roles. In Act 4, Scene 3, Malcolm tells Macduff, "Dispute it like a man," and they hear of the death of Macduff's wife and children. This line challenges Macduff to channel his grief into action, fighting for honour, conforming to the gender expectations at that time. The suggestion that he must dispute it like a man suggests that they all have a common agreement on what this looks like. He doesn't say what disputing it like a man would look like, but he assumes that Macduff will understand what this might involve. This, of course, therefore further proves the deeply rooted expectations of men during this era. And so, in contrast to Macbeth, Macduff represents a different model of masculinity. His character embodies honour, loyalty, and emotional depth. When he learns of his family's murder, he expresses his grief openly, challenging the notion that masculinity involves suppressing emotions. In Act 4, Scene 3, Macduff responds to Malcolm with, "I shall do so, but I must also feel it as a man." This quote highlights his belief that true masculinity involves acknowledging and expressing emotions. The word must magnifies this. He feels it is a duty and almost imperative to process his emotions rather than just dealing with his grief through murder. Macduff's response to his family's death contrasts sharply with Macbeth's emotional detachment and further underscores the play's possible critique of rigid rules for what masculinity should actually look like. Macduff's character demonstrates that strength and honour can coexist with vulnerability and empathy too, offering a more nuanced and humane model of masculinity, serving only to make Macbeth look even more immoral. Finally, I just want to consider why Shakespeare might have included this theme. Given the societal norms of his time, Shakespeare's portrayal of masculinity in Macbeth offers a critique of and highlights the destructive consequences of gender roles. Because Macbeth was so desperate to prove himself as masculine, his view of it became warped and misguided, potentially encouraging audiences to reflect on the dangers of rigid gender roles. Remember, the theme of masculinity in Macbeth not only provides a compelling narrative, but also offers a commentary on the societal expectations of gender roles and the impact they have on individuals and their actions.